This is Prime Sports NASCAR on the Prime Sports Network as we have one more race to go for the round of 16. First round of the playoffs just about to be complete, hopefully on Saturday night, weather permitting, but it looks pretty good right now for the night race at Bristol because we don't want the night race sponsorship to get screwed up on Sunday. Just imagine how embarrassing that would be.
You're the Bass Pro Shops night race starting at 2 p.m.
Yeah, that wouldn't be cool.
The Bass Pro Shops late afternoon Sunday race.
Yeah.
We've had it before.
Yeah, we have. That's right. Anyway, so let's hope that that's not the deal, but it looks pretty good. Okay, so let's take a look, first of all, what happened last week, guys, at Richmond. And a win for Brett Keselowski, dominated with 192 laps, and you just knew that unless there was a caution late in the race, it was just, and there were no cautions really in the race at all, were there?
Mm-mm. Just the stage breaks in the competition.
That's a lot of fun, isn't it? When there's no stoppages. And, yeah, this is what we talked about before. We just talked about wearing down tires last week. And here we go, a perfect situation where if the tires would have worn down in a race like this, it would make it more exciting. But anyway, Keselowski gets the easy win. Besides Keselowski, CJ, who impressed you the most?
That's a good question.
Or surprised you in a positive way?
Well, Austin Dillon, I think, surprised me yet
again. Austin Dillon. Let's give him credit, man.
Yeah.
He's on your fantasy team, too.
In a row. He is, yep. Hopefully he gets another win here. Help me out there, too. But he's been impressive over the past 2 weeks. And they were talking a little bit about it during the broadcast, saying that some of these teams that got a win and had their spot in the playoffs locked in, they may have gone away for a bit of time as they tried to focus on things for the playoffs. And that certainly looks like that was the case for Austin Dillon. He was very confident ahead of the playoffs starting, saying that we're going to surprise a lot of people. And there are a lot of people that don't have us going to the next round. And we're going to advance probably even further than that. And without a doubt, he's showing it. I mean, just absolutely impressive. 55 laps led at Richmond, and he was well in the mix the week before too. This team has got it going on right now for sure. They've shown the speed. Richard Childress Racing throughout the season, like they've been down the past couple of years, but this year they seem to have the speed again consistently, and he's putting it to good use right now.
All right, Eric, what would lead you to believe that this is the beginning of Austin Dillon finally living up to everything that he thought that maybe he could become when he came into the series? What would that be? Is there something that you can see, whether it's the team, whether it's something new even, whether it's crew chief, whether it's the car, the driver? What's any different? Or is he going to, finish 15th this week, and then in the next couple of weeks he'll be out of the next round, and then we'll be like, oh, well, that was just a 2-week deal for Austin Dillon?
Yeah, I think they're exceeding expectations for sure. I mean, nobody picked him to be here, and for a reason. But I do think, you look at what he's done. He's top 5 both races so far. There's no reason to believe that he's not going to do it again this weekend. I mean, he finished, what was it, 6th? Yeah, 6th in Bristol in May. So,
he actually had a good All-Star race too.
He did. He was there in the All-Star race. So I do believe this. I would be shocked now at this point if he doesn't have a top 10 in all 3 races this round. I feel like he's going to be that good on Saturday night, and I feel like this is who they're becoming. I don't think they're there yet. They made a lot of changes in-house. I mean, they swapped some crew chiefs around. They brought his crew chief back to him that a couple of years ago it wasn't gelling because that was his crew chief in the Trucks and Xfinity series. He's won championships in both series with him, brought him up to Cup, and it wasn't working. So they swapped him out and brought it back together again, and bringing somebody like Tyler Reddick, pairing him with his Xfinity crew chief so they can hit the ground running, bringing Andy Petrie back a few years ago and redoing the engineering department. I mean, they've been slowly working their way up to this point, and they're getting closer and closer. I mean, I think they're there. I mean, yes, Texas win was a fluke, but they're showing that, hey, we would have made the playoffs anyways on points. Now we're forced. I mean, let's be honest. Are they gonna contend in the round of 12 with the big teams? Because at that point, you're gonna probably need to win a race if you're him, and it could happen at Talladega. But I feel like getting out of the first round is huge for them, and it's a great building step to next year, where you'd hope they just propel themselves up even further. So
it sounds like to me though
like
that you're not, even though these are nice baby steps, you're still not overly impressed.
I'm impressed, but I'm not going to go all in like, yep, they're here. They're the 3 cars back to what it was in the 90s and 80s, and I don't think they're there yet. I still think there's room to grow. I mean, you can see the direction they're going. You can see that it wasn't like it used to be where RCRs just always struggled and they couldn't get out of their own way. I feel like it was a big help that they went back to 2 cars instead of having 3, putting all your resources in 2 and instead of spreading yourselves thin. And we'll see what happens in the offseason. I mean, they had Jermaine and Racing and Richard Petty Motorsports as alliance cars. We know they're losing Jermaine. That team's probably going to close, which Ty Dillon's at. Does Ty Dillon wind up in a 3rd RCR car next year? Does Petty stay involved and they throw Ty Dillon there? To what's going to happen? I mean, are they going to lose both? I mean, does it end up being just a plain 2-car team with no alliance? And does that help propel them forward because their resources are even more in-house? So they've got some ways to go, but I feel like they're trending in the right direction. And they're getting closer and closer. I mean, they're not Hendrick Motorsports, but in pecking order with Chevrolet, I'd say they're kind of getting close to Chip Ganassi Racing is right there as the second best Chevy team.
All right, well, still though, what I would like to see, even if he does get eliminated in the next round, I still want to see at 3 top 15s.
Yeah.
Because if I see a 22nd, a 14 and a 12, it's going to be, that's how I'm going to react. And I think most people will react like, oh, it was just a 2-week thing, just a 2-race thing. Nothing to see there. So, but if you miss the round of 8, but at least a couple top 10s, maybe you wreck at Talladega, then yeah, I'd be real confident about the team moving forward. But and it's not like the team's going to stop after they miss the playoffs anyway. They still have racing to do after that. But I'd like to see some continue at least through the end of the year. Give me another. What do we have? How many more races? 9,
7, 8.
Oh, 8.
Okay, 8.
All right,
yeah.
Then I want to see at least 3 top 10s, 3 more top 10s, and maybe 4. And then I'll be like, okay, this is they got something going here.
Yeah, because you got to look playoffs. I mean, the big teams always rise to the top. I mean, also I looked ahead. I mean, right here he finished 12th and 4th his last 2 Vegas starts.
Let's see, right there. There you go.
In Bristol, 6th in Bristol in May.
He could win at Talladega.
4 top 10s last 6. Talladega's a crapshoot, and then you're on the Roval, which he hasn't had the best road course success. But that car with Kaz Gralla, of all people, in Daytona,
maybe they should switch again.
Yeah, come down with COVID after the first lap and get out of the car because you still get the points as long as you start the race.
I don't look. If Bill Belichick was the coach, he'd do it. Have some balls.
True.
Just be like, I don't care what anybody thinks. We love Austin Dillon, but this guy is just better than Dillon at this course.
You're onto something. Hey, you know what? Bring in AJ Allmendinger. Go for it.
Why not?
Hey, run a couple laps.
Hey, man.
Work in the gray
area.
area.
It's not cheating.
It's not because he started the race. It's in the rule book. He gets the points and get to move on. Why would you not? It's a Roval. There's going to, what to do it during the stage break.
Okay. There you go.
Why
not? Nobody's going to do it, but somebody should one of these days.
It would be ballsy. It would be
interesting.
And that would be,
it would be.
That would be a Bill Belichick move.
Absolutely. All right. So anyway, Keselowski gets the big win. And just taking a look here, you mentioned Logano, CJ, and yes, Logano, it's still something. Logano and Keselowski have been really good at this track, but for whatever reason, Blaney hasn't been able to figure that out. And the team, once again, having some issues early on in the race, and he just couldn't get going. But yeah, that surprises me that their teammate hasn't been able to feed off of the success of Keselowski and Logano at Richmond. And now Ryan Blaney's in a must-win situation.
Yeah, and I kind of predicted that last week. I really didn't have high hopes for him just based on past. It was I wanted to figure out a way in my picks to get Keselowski and Logano in. I think I was talking to you about that before. Too bad, obviously, I didn't. But I did not have high hopes for Blaney, and there's just something about it. I've been high on him all season. I think he's still got the speed. We're going to see this weekend if they're able to figure it out and put it in on the track. He's issued kind of a warning to anybody that's ahead of him to say that he means business. In other words, he's going to be moving you out of the way because he's got a job that he knows he needs to get done. So he's not going to be afraid to make a couple of enemies out on the racetrack this week.
Yeah, but I would hope that might work against him at Bristol, because it's sort of like, I mean, you don't want to cut your tire. I think he's so good at Bristol. I think he just needs to if anything, I don't think he should be over aggressive. Just race your race.
Yeah, that's a very good point. He is significantly better here than probably the past couple of tracks, but for whatever reason, doesn't seem to be on the same page as his team. He's not making the right adjustment calls. The team's not helping him out and giving him what he needs to be able to work his way through traffic. He got stuck down in traffic. We saw it the week before when he lost his starting position. He was just not able to move through the field. There are a couple of other guys, Austin Dillon, Denny Hamlin, that went to the back that were able to work their way forward. For whatever reason, he's not finding what he needs to be able to make those moves up through the field. I think the speed is there. I don't think they've lost the speed. I think they may be second guessing themselves, or they just may be making the outright wrong call on what direction they need to make with some of the changes that would help them out on the track during the race.
All right. Meanwhile, let's see. Hamlin and Harvick led their share of laps, just like Logano, 40, 45, that range. And just to show you how kind of a hard season it's been for Eric and his fantasy team, he was real solid on his fantasy numbers this week. 4 drivers in the top 10, all of his drivers in the top 20. And you ended up with the third most points out of the 3 of us.
Yep. 2020 for you.
That's crazy. But anyway, it is a good sign to see that Kyle Busch finished 6th. Almirola's back in at 8th. So that's good. And moving forward, those guys, especially Kyle, looking at this week again, he's 6-1, and it's like I see where we could feel that maybe he's getting something going again, but at 6-1, I just that's the thing. I just can't take him at that number.
Yeah, even though he's led 2,434 laps at Bristol, it's just he's not won this year yet, and I just don't feel I just don't feel like they've got their race winning pace yet. They're close, but they're not there. So yeah, 6-1. If he was like 8-9-1, yeah, I'd be more. But 6-1 is a little.
CJ's
tough.
Okay with that though. He's the only one that went with Kyle Busch. He only went with 2 drivers this week, and one of them was Kyle.
I saw that. Yeah.
What's up with that?
Yeah.
Where's this confidence in Kyle Busch?
He's got speed. He's not.
He's been dominant at this
track.
I mean, he's like a superstar at Bristol.
Yeah, he is. And it's not like he's a full step behind everybody that's ahead of him. He's been chasing down the lead multiple times, and things just haven't fallen. I'm still convinced by the end of these playoffs, hopefully before he ends up getting knocked out, he's going to get a win. He's right there. You've got to be in the top 5 consistently, running in the top 5. You got to be able to get out and lead laps. He's checked both of those boxes. The next thing to come is just the luck to be in position to capitalize and get the win. He's got to keep his nose clean. He's got to not make any mistakes. I think we saw some of that from the beginning of the season. But the pace has been there from the summer onward. And when you come to a track like Bristol, 6-1 for what he's done so far this year is highly questionable. But I feel like it's going to be Hamlin or Busch, and that's where I put my money this week. Putting it where my mouth is.
Okay.
Put it that way.
As far as
we'll either go home happy or big loser, one or the other.
As far as the playoffs are concerned, we talked about Blaney. He's a must-win. So is DiBenedetto. They're the only must-wins, right, Eric?
Yeah. Everybody else is points racing. Not everybody else. I mean, you're Hamlin, Harvick, Logano, Keselowski, Bowman, Truex, Elliot. I think even Austin Dillon, obviously, they're good. And everybody else is points racing at that point.
All right, well, let's take a look at those drivers first, because Di Benedetto had that impressive runner-up finish in August, and that was last August, right? And
last
he
year.
finished 31st in May, though, so that didn't go too well. But still, at least he's got a good memory of the track not too long ago, and his odds are 50-1. As far as Blaney, you're looking at a driver who's got 4 top 10s in his last 6 at Bristol. He's led 439 laps in the last 6 races. That's 73 a race. He had 60 laps led in May until the wreck. And the interesting thing is that even when he got loose and spun out, he would have been fine had Dillon not rammed into him, which was really disappointing because Ty could have avoided that. That was a bad luck situation there for Blaney. Blaney crashed in the 2018 race that he led 100 laps. So in the last 6 races, even though he's wrecked twice, leading a combined 160 laps in those races, the other 4 times he's finished in the top 10. So as long as he avoids wrecks, he's going to be there. He also has an impressive resume in the Xfinity Series at Bristol, which includes a win. So he really does like this track. And at 14-1, that's a pretty good number for a driver that is A, really good at the track, and B, desperate for a win.
Yeah, it's a bargain. It's just he's led over 100 laps 3 of his last 5 Bristol starts. It's just what does he got to do to finish? That's the only thing that's
coming with risk. It's 14 coming with risk.
Yeah, neither one of you guys believe in him. I put a little bit of money on Blaney this week, but you guys have run out of confidence with Ryan Blaney.
I haven't run out of confidence with him. I think he's going to be there in the end. The question is whether or not he's going to be able to get to victory lane in a must-win situation. He's still got the speed for me till the end of the season, and I just question the moves that they've made and the adjustments that they made on track over the past couple of weeks. And maybe when the pressure is off, when it's not a must-win situation, we see that speed come back, and he's going to be there at the end this weekend. But the question is whether or not he has that extra edge to be able to get to victory lane.
All right, Custer 14, Byron 13. So they're on the outs right now. Is it, I could ask who has a better chance of getting in. Is it as simple as Byron?
I think so.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Even though if you take a look at it, Custer hasn't really had a good resume at this track. Even in the Xfinity Series is okay, but nothing great. Byron hasn't been all that much at this track either, but he was 8th in May, like you said.
He's got 3 top 5s in his last 4 on the season. Yeah, in the last concrete track we ran on at Dover, he was a top 5 car too. So and Hendrick's quietly been pretty good at Bristol again lately. Look at Chase Elliott won the All-Star race. He's been good there. Jimmy Johnson finished 3rd in the spring race. Byron 8th. Bowman a few years ago was like 5th and 8th in the 2 races. So I think he's got good enough top 10 speed. We'll just say that. And that could be good enough to get him by. Depending on how stage points go, he's close enough for Custer, as you said. He's a rookie. Is he going to be treated like a punching bag, or guys just going to push him out of the way, and is he going to fight back? So I don't know if he necessarily has the speed for a top 5 like he's probably going to need. So I would say Byron is the best case person, the safest one to say of the 4 that's going to bump his way in.
Yeah, and you're the only one to put a little money on Byron this week, Eric. So 50-1, big number for William Byron. All right, now Boyer, Kurt Busch, Almirola, Kyle Busch. Those 4 drivers you still believe could be in danger, including Kyle Busch, if anything were to go wrong in this race, where any of those 4 drivers could miss the next round.
Yeah, we've seen Kyle. Go ahead, CJ.
I was going to say Kyle Busch. He's got a little bit of a cushion, 11 points, but I think this is really showing off where the missing out on those stage points throughout the season. and getting those playoff points, the extra bonus that he needs to be able to help him through the rough patches in the playoffs. This is where this is really coming to bear. I mean, you wouldn't have expected Clint Boyer or maybe even necessarily Kurt Busch to have racked up as many as Kyle would have at this point. And he's used to relying on those to get his way through. And he just doesn't have those to fall back on. So he's got to be consistently good every single week and can't afford a misstep.
Okay, Kyle, just again to throw the stats at you. He's got 8 wins in 30 races. He's led over 2,400 laps in those races. That's 81 laps a race in 30 races. He has 5 top 5s in his last 6, including 3 wins, and he's led 79 laps a race during that stretch. And he was 4th in May, leading 100 laps. So, which was probably his best race of the year, to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So, who knows? Maybe CJ's onto something.
As long as he stays out of trouble, he could be there.
Yeah.
That's the thing with Bristol. Was it a couple of years ago? He got like a first lap wreck, went 3 laps down, came all the way back from 3 laps down to the lead, and then got caught up in another wreck. So that's the thing about Bristol.
I think it's not only the wrecks. I think it's the dumb mistakes on pit road too. So a speeding penalty and getting sent back, losing your track position. This is a place, even I would argue more so than Richmond, where little things like that have a larger impact on where you're ultimately going to end up at the end of the race. So you got to be, on it every single lap, everything you're doing.
Also, well, and Kurt Busch brought a good point today, and I asked him about the track is different. I mean, the spring race, we saw a lot of passing. The All-Star race was like a parade. And how do you go with setting your car up? Yes, you have data, but there's the PJ1. And he said he thinks it's going to race more like the spring because you got all these other series racing on it before. But because of stage points and needing those points for those kind of guys, you used to set your car up from lap 250 on, knowing that, hey, the first half of the race, just throw it away. We want to be good at the end. Just stay in the track position and be good in the end. Now he's like, you have to start from lap 1. You have to set your car up, but you just, without practice, you don't know. You literally have no idea. He said the All-Star race you couldn't pass because the PJ1 felt like ice. He goes, literally, it felt like you're racing on an ice skating rink. You can't close up to somebody like that. It's back this weekend, and we've got series races before it, but we don't know until the drop of the flag. So we're guessing on a setup, but you can't guess wrong because if you don't score stage points, I mean, he's +7 right now. If he doesn't score stage points and someone like William Byron does, that can quickly knock you out. And then you're fighting your car all night, just like Matt DiBenedetto told me that was what hurt him in Richmond. They guessed wrong, and it took him a while to get going. They did get going because we were one of the fastest cars on the track. We were pinned a lap down for over an hour. He goes, it was literally over an hour that we weren't on the lead lap. Once we got it, the track position wasn't there and the race was over. He goes, that's how finicky these races are going to be, and you have to jump out of the gate. So
are you okay with that,
really,
by the way? Do you think it's better for the sport that we have, like in this situation with the drivers are dealing with the stage points in the playoffs? Are you good with that? Does that add an extra element that is better for the sport, or do you think it's just a kind of gimmicky thing that really shouldn't be there?
I'm okay with it because I think it evens it up a little bit because let's be honest, if you give these guys all practice, the big teams are going to find.
Oh yeah, I mean practicing is one thing, but the stage points.
Oh, you're talking about the stage points?
Because we all agree on the practice. We don't want practice anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I like that.
Or qualifying. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the stage points, I'm seeing more of a value now. At first, I'm like, it's kind of gimmicky, but I'd say it's going to make this race a little more important early, where you're not just right, like Kurt used to say, you set your car up for lap 250 on. Now you've got, 6 drivers right now that you need those points. They can't just ride around. I think it's a strategy play. So I think it's going to help races like this.
Why is that? Because you think it'll make it more – drivers will be more aggressive early on instead of just waiting for them to be aggressive late.
Yeah, they're going to have to be. I mean, you're going to look like, say, Blaney and DiBenedetto again have bad cars early. They've got to be aggressive. You can't chase the car. I mean, you're going to have to be aggressive Because if those guys don't score any stage points, then especially this first stage.
Well, Blaney and
you might-
Benedetto, I mean, they got to win the race, don't they?
They do, but mathematically they can get in. I mean, let's say Kyle
Somebody's
Busch.
got to have problems.
Yeah.
People have got to have problems around them.
And it could
All right,
happen.
give me a scenario where Blaney, because he's last, can get in without winning. A reasonable scenario.
Well, let's say Bowyer's 3 to the good. So let's say Bowyer has something happen early, doesn't get any stage points, and finishes like 36th.
Well, who do you think is the one driver that he probably, is it Bowyer he's the one, or who would you reasonably think is the best chance of beating in that scenario?
I would say Blaney can beat any of them head to head.
Well, I mean, who do you think you would count against? Bowyer, Kurt Busch, or Almirola?
I'm going to go with Almirola.
Almirola?
Yep.
Okay, so okay.
Because you got to look too. Like, I think Custer right now, so he's got.
Custer could easily, something can go wrong with him even early.
He's got to make up 19 points on him, which can be done. I mean, that's a stage win and a second place finish in stage 2.
All right, so Custer, Mark, check.
So that gets him there.
Okay.
And then let's say Almirola and Byron. Let's say none of them score stage points, which is entirely possible.
Okay.
Now you're gaining, say, another 19 points on them. Now it's going to come down to who can finish higher than the other. And Blaney's proven with all these laps led. I mean, look, Almirola, he's got let's see, at Bristol, his last top 5 was 2014.
Yeah.
So he's not necessarily a guy who's 29th last year, 29th in May, 27th. So his last 4 finishes are 31st, 27th, 29th, and 29th. So
if he does that again, he's done.
He does that again. And then you got Custer out of the way. Byron, like we just talked, he did finish 8th in the spring, but his finishes before that were 18th, 23rd, 16th, and 21st. Say he's back in 15th again. Just say he's around that frame. If Blaney gets top 2 or 3, I would say, in both stages, and finishes in the top 2 or 3, maybe even 5, I think that's his route. But he'll know early. I think once you know the first
you have
stage,
to be able to have a really good stage 1.
Yeah, he's got to have a good stage 1, and the other guys have to have not good stage 1s.
Okay.
And what's good, like they talked about, is they're all starting near each other. They're all 16 share the top 8 rows. So you're going to know early, all right, where's our car? How can we get up front? And how can we make sure these guys don't score stage points? And you also got to look, he's got teammates up front that they're not going to fall back because they're good there. So you could have Keselowski and Logano steal some stage points for you. Hamlin and Kyle are good there. They can get, there's 2 more. There's 5 guys right there. So there's a path. Yeah, there's.
And we'll see if the TV analysts do a good job of explaining all this to us.
You'd hope. They won't.
They're not.
It'd be hard to from Charlotte. Like they're probably going to be broadcasting in.
This would be one of those demo shows we could have done that we could take advantage and show them how to do it right. Okay. All right. So let's now talk about Kurt Busch and Bowyer. They're both at 14-1. Bowyer has 5 straight top 10s, including a runner-up in May. He was also runner-up in a race in 2017, but he hasn't had a top 5 in his last 19 races this season. And Kurt Busch has 6 wins at Bristol, but 4 of those was the first 7 attempts and 5 in his first 11 attempts. So he only has 1 win in his last, I believe, 28. But still, he knows how to race at this track. No top 5s, though, in his last 11 on the season as well. So Bowyer and Kurt Busch aren't exactly coming into this race, on fire. So both of these drivers would just love a way to slip into the top 10.
Yeah, both of them consistent top 10. Well, Kurt Busch a little bit less so than Clint Bowyer, but both of them have been consistently scoring top 10s at Bristol over the past couple of years. So they both race really well here. The thing that worries me the most, and I would lean toward Bowyer in this if I were choosing between the two. I think Kurt Busch has just been a little bit off the past couple of weeks. He just has 1 top 10 in his last 5. 2 of those races, Daytona, but one of the Dover races also, he was 40th. So 30th or worse in 2 of the 5, just 1 top 10, and that was in 8th place. He's good at the track, so I expect him to be in the mix for a top 10. But just based on the current trends that we've seen in past races leading up to this weekend, he just doesn't have the momentum behind him at the moment.
All right, yeah, and none of you guys, none of us, have gone with any. Actually, Eric, you went with Boyer and Kurt Busch.
I just threw it in there just for past. Yeah, I wasn't sure what you're going to get out of either one of them, but Boyer, he's there. He's got 8 top 10s in his last 10. He's got 4 top 10s in his last 6. He's
runner-up in May.
Yep. He's just not been there to win. Like in May, he said he didn't deserve that. It was just more.
Just like Keselowski didn't deserve the win.
Yeah, Hamlin, if you remember right, crashed from the lead, and then the next guys, Chase and Logano.
3 drivers should have.
Yeah,
so Hamlin, Logano, and Elliot.
Yep. Which it's a playoff race, cutoff race, so
it could be even worse.
Carnage again,
or better. Point of view.
He sneaks in, so that's why I went him. I don't think he's, in terms of outright pace, I don't think he's going to beat like the Keselowskis or Logano's or Hamlins or Kyles or anybody like that.
Okay.
But you never know what could happen. It's 500 laps at Bristol, so if he can get some luck on his side and they take each other out in the end, there he is. So that could be a path, and for his odds this week, I'm like, why not?
Sure. All right, and it's also a good idea to take them both. Okay.
Yeah.
But Bowman is my top long shot. He's 8th in the point standings. He seems like he's pretty secure to get to the next round. He's done a good job, 6th and 9th in the first 2 races. He did crash at this track in May, and he hasn't really had a great resume at this track in either Xfinity or Cup. But we've kind of said that recently, and he's still done well. So there's something clicking now with Bowman. And that's the reason I just decided I'll throw a couple of bucks on him as my top long shot. But Bowman is fine, right? Chances are he will, no matter what, be in the round of 12.
As long as he doesn't crash on the first lap, I think he's pretty well set. He's 20 some points up.
27, I think.
Okay.
It'd be catastrophic.
Yeah. He'd have to finish last pretty much before the first stage ended.
All right. Now, Chase Elliott, Eric and I went with Chase Elliott. We put $100 each on Elliott at 5-1. He is 7th in the playoff standings, 5th last week. He has 3 top 5s at Bristol. He's led an average of 67 laps in his last 4 at Bristol, including 88 in May. Should have won the race, actually, in May. He led with 5 laps to go. And then with 3 to go, he got loose, slid up, wrecked himself and Logano. And that was it for Chase Elliott. Was that just one of those things where the tires got worn down? Because there was a lot of that happening late in that race that we just talked about.
Yeah, I think he was pushing too hard too, just trying to get back to Logano. But I think that's what caused the tires and got him loose and skated right up into him. But yeah, he swept both stages that race, so won the All-Star race. He's there. He's hot on the season. I mean, he's got 7 top 10s in his last 9. Should have won Darlington. I mean, he's been right there.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you look at, I even wrote about that this week. He should have won the 600. That pit call was bizarre. He should have won the Southern 500, and here you are at the 3rd crown jewel. Can he finally get one? He's won some races, just not these crown jewels. So the All-Star race, he just won there, but it's about a points pain race. So I'd be curious if he can finish a crown jewel off.
And he needs a win too to just establish that I'm back. I can win a championship. That's important.
Yes, especially going to the next round.
I think that's important for him just from a career standpoint, too. I mean, we've seen him consistently making the playoffs. Now it's up to him to start consistently winning in the playoffs.
And no boneheaded decisions.
Final 4. Exactly right. I would argue it's more important for his career than it is this particular year in terms of the championship.
All right, in 6th is Austin Dillon. That's right, Austin Dillon. And for some reason, I'm the only one that put a little bit of money on Austin Dillon this week. I'm not sure why you guys didn't put a few bucks on Dillon. He's 18-1, and he's 2nd and 4th to start the playoffs. He was 6th in May. He did well at the All-Star race. And on the season, he's got 4 top 10s in his last 6, including 2 top 5s. He even has a win in the Xfinity Series at this track. But He's only led 5 laps in 22 races. What are you doing there, CJ? What was that?
I'm given the 0 for laps led.
Oh, yeah. I was just about to say, yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
5 laps combined in 22 races between Xfinity and Cup.
Yeah, my biggest problem, he's got pace, and he's another one that I would expect to be in the top 10, especially based on how he's performed the past 2 weeks. And you got to be consistently there to be able to find yourself into victory lane, but you also got to be leading laps too. And that's just something he hasn't proven that he can do here yet.
Yeah, he might need a lucky situation like what happened in May. Hang out in the top 5, top 6, that kind of thing. And then take advantage. All right, Martin Truex Jr., now, this is another one of those races where we decide, Martin Truex Jr., what was the other track he doesn't do well at that we all avoided him just a few weeks ago?
Daytona. Daytona he's terrible at. Tallahassee terrible at. This one, I'm trying to think of. Darlington, he didn't finish off again. See, he hasn't finished a lot. He's led a lot at Darlington.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was, but there was one. Anyway.
There was a recent one. Yeah.
Truex, this is another one of those race tracks that's just not very good for Martin Truex Jr. That's why a driver as hot as Martin Truex Jr. is 16-1. But he only has 2 top 5s in 29 races, none in his last 16. And, this if he's going to finish outside the top 5 or the top 10, this is the week.
Yeah,
he's one top 10 going all the way back to 2012 at this track. And he's led laps, but just one top 10 finish going back to 2012, 8 years, 16 races.
All right.
20th or worse in 12 of his last 14. He's that guy that if you're out in public and he starts coughing, you're like, COVID, you take off running. This is Truex this week. Like, I'm going to keep you over here, buddy. You're probably finishing 22nd. I'd rather bet for him finishing outside the top 20 than some of these other guys that'll win. 20th or worse in 12 in his last 14. But you got to look, he's plus 38. I think he's going to be as conservative as anybody can be. Yeah. He knows where he's at Bristol. There's no sense.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't swing for the fences. Don't do anything dumb. Just pit when you're supposed to pit. Stay out of trouble. Don't push it, and just move on to the next round because he's good at a lot of the tracks in the next round.
Logano, the way he's racing is a nice little bargain maybe at 8-1. I think he's a better play than Kyle at 6-1 based on the odds. And maybe even Keselowski and Harvick because those guys have wins already. Eric and I put some money on Logano. And, I just think, look, he's red hot at this point in time. He's back to being maybe the best stretch of the season, actually. 9 top 10s in his last 11 with 5 top 5s. He has 8 top 10s in his last 12 at the track, 5 top 5s, and a couple of wins, 15 and 14. And we don't care if he finished 21st in May because he could have won the race. And he got wrecked by Elliot, battling for first place with 3 laps to go. So, I think this is a pretty good time to go back to Joey Logano at 8-1, third and third in his first 2 playoff races.
Yeah, and he's starting on the front row. I mean, he's right there. He's 8 top 10s in his last 9. And you just look at what he's done at Bristol. He's 7 top 10s in his last 10. He was 3rd in the spring race, not this year, but last year. So I feel good about him. And I asked him today, you've won a championship before. You've been in the championship 4s. Where do you feel like now compared to then? You know what it's like to get there. Do you feel like you're there? Do you feel like you're close? He goes, no, we're there. They're there. He feels like he is a championship car, which says a lot going to Bristol. And he's got starting position and talk about a guy that's not afraid to ruffle some feathers. Okay. He'll use the bumper. Plus, you got to look at the playoff standings as far as playoff points. Like he said, the later you get, the more you're going to have to win a race. His winless streak is going to have to end at some point. But he's got 22 playoff points. You look at Kevin Harvick, 62. Denny Hamlin, 48. Brad Keselowski, 35. He's got 22. That means going into the next round, because you throw the points away, they reset it. So let's just say that neither of those 4 get any points. He's 13 points behind Brad Keselowski, the top. So, and I mean, gosh, what is that? He's 27 points off of Kevin Harvick.
That's why he's got to win races.
you got to win races to get those playoff points. That's the easiest way to close that gap to where maybe you get to the round of 8. You're not forced to win. I mean, let's be honest, those 3 are probably now going to be the 3 of the championship four drivers. Who's the 4th? And he's only got 22. Chase Elliott has 20. What if Chase Elliott wins Saturday night? Now, Chase has it by 3 points for that spot. Yep. So to me, playoff points are more important for him, and the easiest way to get him is to win.
All right, we have about 3 or 4 minutes to go. Keselowski and Harvick, they have the wins already. So we wonder about whether or not that's, if you take a look at it, nobody took Harvick. Eric, you did take Keselowski. Put a little bit of money on Keselowski. He's at 5-1. Harvick's at 5-1. Harvick doesn't have a top 5 in his last 6 at Bristol, leading just 36 laps combined. He was 11th in May. Keselowski, in his last 2 races at Bristol, he won in May from the pole. That was the luck win, but he did lead 115 laps in the race, and he was 3rd last August, leading 91 laps. So I can see why you decided to go, if you're going to take one of those 2 drivers, you were going to go with Keselowski.
Yeah, and the pole winners won each of the last 2 years, or 2 Bristol starts, the spring and last fall, and he's the pole winner. Plus, he's won 4 times this year. 3 of them are on these horsepower tracks, the 750s. He's the only one with multiple wins on them all year. And so here we are again, another 750 track. He feels like these are his best tracks. That's what I said, and I wrote about it on Monday, or Sunday, I should say. He's a championship favorite again. Phoenix is a 750 track. And again, he's won 3 times on them. So if he wins Saturday night, I think that's a statement. He's got the pole. He's got clean air. So yeah, I just feel good. I was shocked that his odds were what they were. I thought maybe coming off of a win and starting on the pole, he'd be more 3-1-ish. But
yeah, there's too many other good drivers. Doubled. So for the odd, which is good for us.
It was worth the risk.
So,
yeah.
And by the way, 16 of the last 19 winners at Bristol have started in the top 6 rows. 10 of the last 19 in the top 5 overall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That includes 5 pole sitters during that stretch, and 3 pole sitters have won in the last 5, including, as you said, Eric, back-to-back races. All right, and then we have Denny Hamlin to close it out. And Hamlin, maybe we saved the best for last. You decided to skip Hamlin, Eric, but CJ and I went with Hamlin. And CJ, I see where you're coming from. 5 top 10s in his last 8, 4 of those top 5s. A win from the pole last August. Led 79 laps in that race. He led 131 in May. He led with 12 laps to go, got loose, and then he could have escaped that. But when Logano got loose, that caused Hamlin to wreck. But Hamlin doesn't have a win and in the playoffs, and maybe he's feeling left out.
Yeah, and it's about time, based on the season that he's had, to start scoring some wins in the playoffs. He's been so strong this whole season. He was strong at this track, as you said earlier in the year. 131 laps led, should have won the race. I think he's due, and I think he's hungry, and he's going to come and get it. And that's why I decided to go all in on Hamlin and Busch this week. I had Keselowski on the list, but the back-to-back wins was just a little bit too much. Hamlin's really my choice this week.
All right, and the only other long shots, I went with Jones. I put a few bucks on Jones, and Eric, you put a few bucks on Stenhouse, actually, because we already mentioned DiBenedetto and Byron were your other long shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Stenhouse, I mean, it's just like on super speedways in Bristol is where I throw my money on him. Just, you never know.
6 top 10s and 4 top 5s. That's as good as he's ever had in any track.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's ever led a lap.
No, he hasn't.
Which is weird.
With 2 runner-ups.
But yeah. So if carnage ensues and he avoids it, he's another guy that, again, he is not going to be afraid to use his bumper just to get some momentum. So I thought for 80-1, why not?
And Jones at 22-1. He has a runner-up in the 2017 race from the pole when he led 260 laps. He also has 2 wins in the Xfinity Series, and he's one of those drivers not in the playoffs that could care less about the playoff drivers because he wants a win. So, but he's got to get out and lead some laps again because he hasn't done that in a while. I think if he can lead some laps in one of these races, maybe he could start feeling lucky.
What better job audition to win the Bristol night race?
let's keep our fingers crossed. It will be a nice night race, but the weather's looking good.
Yep.
So I think we're going to be okay, guys.
They just got to get through tonight, it seems like.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Excellent job as always. CJ, RotoWire, what you working on?
RotoWire.com. We've got the fantasy truck preview up. We'll have Xfinity up next, Cup after that, and then we'll have the Cup race recap probably sometime on Monday. RotoWire.com.
And racereviewonline.net. Eric?
Same, just working on if the trucks race tonight, recap there for their first playoff race. Xfinity stuff on Friday for because that'll set their playoff field. That's their last regular season race, and then a bunch of Cup stuff, probably recap of the race, and then who made it and who didn't into the next round and why.
All right. Thanks, guys. Next week, it's on to round of 12, starting with Vegas. And after that is Talladega and the Roval. So enjoy the race on Saturday night, guys. We will talk again next Thursday.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.